Ambassador Hua, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, the aim of Donald Trump's travel ban, as it says, was to protect the nation from foreign terrorist entry into the United States. Do you think the act of the United States of putting Iran on the list of the 7 countries is an act of provocation?
Iran has been labeled a terrorist country since the revolution in 1979. So Iran has been called a terrorist country since many presidents of the United States. So I think it's easy for Donald Trump to call Iran a terrorist country again. Of course, the hostility of the Congress, U.S. Congress against Iran is very strong, and public opinion of the United society is also quite strong because Iran has been deeply demonized in the public opinion in the United States. So I think Iran has been listed into the 7 countries, terrorist countries. The reasons that Donald Trump still he's considering or listing Iran among the terrorist country in the Middle East. And one of the reasons that the United States labeled Iran a terrorist country is because of the Iranian support of Lebanese Hezbollah, which has been labeled a terrorist group in the United States too. But actually, Iran has been the safest countries in the Middle East. And actually, Iran has not been engaged with any terrorist activities. So I think it's a deliberate provocation against Iran.
And Iran has reacted very strongly. We're going to talk about the reaction in just a moment. But just in case this travel ban, which is right now frozen, just in case it does get the go-ahead, how is it going to affect Iran in a negative way? Is it going to have a big negative impact, you think?
Yes, there is a big phenomenon in the U.S. and Iran relationship. Iran and the United States have had no diplomatic relations with each other. But in spite of this, millions of Iranians are living in the United States, studying there or doing business or traveling there. And today you see in Iran, almost many families have their children studying in the United States. So this will heavily affected many Iranian families who have their children studying there or traveling there.
Yeah, I would imagine that this is also going to play very negatively in the Iranian people's perception and expectations from the American people and the American government, especially after the conclusion of the Iran deal. I think among the Iranian public there is quite actually a friendly sentiment towards the American people.
Yes, of course. After the signing of a nuclear deal between the 5+1 and Iran, Iranian people have high expectation for the United States and the West as a whole. They expected the East relation with United States, with European countries, and have more trade and, of course, better life in Iran. But this new act of Donald Trump, the presidency, I think will very negative affections on Iran and the public opinion about the United States.
Let's talk about Iran's reaction towards the travel ban in the immediate aftermath after the travel ban was announced on February the 5th. The Iranian Foreign Ministry said they were going to deny visa to U.S. wrestlers who were expected to attend the Freestyle World Cup competition in Iran, but later they changed their policy and decided to allow these wrestlers to come. Why do you think Iran reversed its decision?
Yes, the relation with the United States has been always a very controversial issue in Iran. And although the popular, many people, they're expecting better relationship with the U.S. and have their children to study in the United States and more trade and more open society, But still, there are strong opinions against the United States. The United States is still called or labeled a great Satan in Iran. And then many people in Iran still think the United States is the #1 enemy for Iran.
Let's talk about the missile tests and the sanctions. We know things were developing very fast, right? Donald Trump issued the travel ban, and immediately the next day, Iran test-fired missiles. And then the next day, the United States, Iran violated the Iranian deal, and Iran test-fired another missile, and then back and forth. Do you think the first missile test that Iran was conducted immediately after the ban was announced, do you think that they did it in retaliation for the travel ban, or they wanted to do anyway already? They just chose the perfect time to press the button.
Iran did have frequent missile tests before the nuclear deal. And really, they seized many of their missile tests after the signing of the nuclear deal. Mm-hmm. But again, because of the very strong action or deliberate provocation of Donald Trump's administration, Iranian restarted their missile tests. I think by doing this, Iranians, they want to give the U.S. or the Donald Trump's administration a strong signal that Iran is strongly against this kind of policy of the United States.
Do you think President Trump might back down, given this kind of temperament we have seen so far?
Trump has been stated that he's against the nuclear deal with Iran, and strongly he has criticized Barack Obama's deal with Iran. He said the United States has lost so much in the deal. But I think still there is a big question for you, because this is a deal not only bilateral between U.S. and Iran. It is a deal between 5+1 with Iran. It's an international agreement. Yeah. So U.S. can withdraw from that agreement, but they cannot deny the position of the European Union, Russia and China. And
China, sure. Now, there's been a dispute between the United States and Iran as to whether the firing of the ballistic missiles has violated the Iranian deal. Of course, the Trump administration says Iran violated, Iran says it didn't. How can we judge that?
The nuclear deal actually is a deal of nuclear issue. Nothing has been mentioned about the Iranians' missile test. Of course, there is an article, Iran's ban should be banned from any kind of missile tests carrying nuclear warhead. But this time the nuclear test is without nuclear warhead. So I think Iran is entitled to have this kind of missile tests.
What about the new sanctions that the U.S. Treasury Department has rolled out? This time, these sanctions are targeting 25 individuals and companies, including Chinese companies and Chinese individuals. But in the first place, do you think the U.S. has the right to do these?
Since the revolution, Iranian revolution, 38 years before, Iran has been many times sanctioned by the United States. Iran still is sanctioned for many things. Many Iran's assets has been frozen in the United States, American banks. So actually, Iranians got used of the U.S. sanctions. Many times Iran has been sanctioned. This time, this sanction, I think, is much less than the last sanctions President Obama did, because that was in 2012. President Obama issued the sanction against Iran. It's a bilateral trade, and Iran's currency exchange has been stopped. But this time is much less than.
You think it's much less, but however, it seems that the fact that the 2 Chinese companies and 3 Chinese people have been on the sanction list and have been put on the sanction list, and this is causing protest from China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. For instance, spokesman Liu Xin said Beijing has lodged a protest to Washington, saying the sanctions are not helpful in promoting mutual trust. Do you think it was a mistake that the Treasury Department did by putting these names on the list, or they did it with a purpose?
Washington did not have a very good record of the relations with China, especially the relation or trade between China and Iran. And the Chinese companies always have been the scapegoat of the U.S. policy. So
in the case of DPRK also?
Yes, DPRK. Chinese companies, well, more than 100 Chinese companies are doing their business with Iran. And it's easy to find some excuse to make Chinese company as scapegoat, which is the United States may not like that. So I think this time this two Chinese company has been the scapegoats.
Finally, how do you look at the near future of U.S.-Iran relations? Do you think we are going to see a major confrontation?
As far as Donald Trump has made his statements during his election campaign and after his inauguration as President of the United States, his statement has been not very friendly to Iran. We have to expect a very negative future of the U.S. and Iran relationship.